You know, it's a funny thing. Two people can do the exact same thing, right? But their reasons for doing it can be worlds apart. It turns out that in life, and especially when we look at the Bible, the why behind what you do is often way more important than the what. So let's dive in and see what that really means.
Okay, so we're going to start with a real head-scratcher. I mean, this is an apparent contradiction from one of the most important figures in all of Christianity. And honestly, it's a puzzle that has left a lot of people scratching their heads.
And that puzzle? Well, it really just boils down to one simple question. Did the Apostle Paul, the guy who wrote a huge chunk of the New Testament, actually sin by doing the exact opposite of what he taught?
All right, so here's the problem laid out plain and simple. On the one hand, you've got Paul's letter to the Galatians, where he says, pretty clearly, if you let yourselves be circumcised, Christ will be of no value to you, okay? But then on the other hand, you turn to the book of Acts, and what do you see? You see Paul himself taking his disciple Timothy and circumcising him. So, what in the world is going on here?
Okay, to solve this thing, we've got to dig a little deeper into the story of Timothy. Let's treat this like our first case study and try to figure out why Paul would make a move that, on the surface, looks completely hypocritical.
So who was Timothy? Well, his background is absolutely the key to unlocking this whole thing. He was this well-respected young believer, but here's the thing. His mom was Jewish and his dad was Greek, and because of that, he was uncircumcised. And that one little detail is about to become super important.
So here's the dilemma Paul was facing. His whole strategy was to go into a new city and start preaching in the Jewish synagogues. But Timothy, who everyone would have considered Jewish because of his mother, would have been stopped at the door. I mean, an uncircumcised man? No way. They wouldn't have even been allowed inside. Their whole mission would have been dead in the water before it even started.
And this is where Paul himself tells us exactly what was going on in his head. He lays out his whole philosophy right here. His goal wasn't legalism. It was all about removing any and every cultural barrier that might stop someone from hearing the message of the gospel. You see, he wasn't compromising his beliefs. He was building a bridge to people.
So, here's the whole point, right? The action, circumcision, wasn't the real issue. For the people in Galatia, it was a huge problem because their motive was all wrong. They thought they had to do it to be saved. But for Timothy, it was just a strategic move, a practical step to remove a barrier so they could share their message. It's the same exact action, but a completely different motive, a totally different heart behind it.
Okay, so now that we've established this huge principle, that motive is everything, let's see how it helps us unpack another surprisingly controversial topic. We're going to connect an ancient law to a very modern debate, the question of tattoos.
So here you have it. Ancient law on one side, modern expression on the other. How in the world do these two relate? How do we connect a rule written thousands of years ago to someone getting a tattoo today to express their faith? Well, you guessed it. The answer, once again, comes down to the motive.
Now, this is the verse that always comes up in this discussion, Leviticus 19:28. And yeah, if you just read it on the surface, it really does seem like an open and shut case, right? A blanket ban on any kind of marks on your body. But, just like we did with Paul, we have to ask the most important question, what was the original context?
And it turns out the context is absolutely everything. This command in Leviticus wasn't some broad rule against all body art forever. No, it was aimed at very specific rituals that the pagan cultures all around them were doing. Things like cutting themselves to mourn the dead or marking themselves for their idols. The whole point, the motive, was to keep the Israelites separate from that kind of idol worship. But here's what's really fascinating. The Bible actually has positive examples of markings too. The prophet Isaiah talks about people literally writing on their hands, "the Lord's," as a sign of who they belong to. And God himself is described as having Israel's name engraved on his hands. Then you get to Revelation, and you see God's people are marked on their foreheads as a sign that they belong to him.
And this really illustrates how so many Christians today think about it. For them, a tattoo isn't about rebellion or pagan rituals at all. It's a permanent proclamation of their faith. It's a way to remember a core truth, to carry it with them, using their own bodies as a testament to what they believe.
Okay, let's bring it all together now. We've looked at circumcision, we've looked at tattoos, so what's the one central principle that solves both of these puzzles? What's the core idea that makes it all make sense?
It's this simple. Intent is everything. The why behind what you do is what truly gives the action its meaning.
And the Bible is so clear about this. You know, it's really easy for us to justify our own actions, to think everything we do is pure.
But this verse from Proverbs is a powerful reminder that God sees past all that. He's not just looking at what we do on the outside. He's the one who weighs the motives of our hearts.
So, okay, this isn't just a fun fact about ancient history, right? This principle is super practical for us today. The real question is, how do we actually apply this to our own lives, to the choices we make every single day?
Well, here's a little checklist you can use. A quick motive check, you could call it. Ask yourself, would I still be doing this if nobody ever found out? Am I doing this because I want people to praise me or because of how it makes me feel? Would I keep going if there was zero visible payoff or even if I had to suffer for it? And the biggest one, is my goal here to glorify God? These are some seriously powerful questions to ask ourselves about pretty much anything.
Because at the end of the day, this is the ultimate measuring stick. It doesn't matter if it's a huge life decision or something as small as what you eat or drink. The question is always the same. Is my deepest motive, my true intent, to bring glory to God?
So that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Think about your life right now, your work, your relationships, even the things you do for your faith. What's one area that might look totally different if you just paused for a second and got really honest about the motive behind it?